Even though there are a few more games left for the Vikings this season, we do know that they are in the playoffs. So what's the formula for them to actually win some games? We're talking about it coming up on Superior Sports Talk.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now it's Superior Sports Talk with KARE 11 sports anchor Reggie Wilson and Luke Inman. It's 30 minutes every day, and it's all the Minnesota sports you need. It's Superior Sports Talk, and it starts now.
Welcome in, everyone. Another episode of Superior Sports Talk. I'm your resident utility player, Sam Ekstrom, filling in for Luke Inman once again. Reggie Wilson of KARE 11 joins me. He's on Twitter, at Reggie Wilson. And as Reggie said, we're going to lay out the Vikings formula for playoff success. We're also going to look ahead post-Vikings. Once they break our hearts, who do local fans cling to, the Wolves or the Wild? And in Gimme One, there was a Carlos Correa switcheroo that did not involve the Twins, and the Vikings have 5 Pro Bowlers. We'll talk about that in What Does It Mean? Before we get into Vikings playoff formulas, make sure you check us out on Amazon Fire and Roku, the Locked On Sports Minnesota app, which gives you a seamless, wonderful viewing experience on those new TVs that you probably bought on Black Friday or for the holiday season. Also, subscribe on YouTube. The Locked On Sports Minnesota channel gives you access to all of our videos, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Reggie Wilson of KARE 11 joining me now. Reggie, I'm looking ahead to the playoffs already. 2 seed, 3 seed, doesn't matter. The Vikings are going to have a home playoff game. They're going to play the Commanders, the Giants, the Lions, the Seahawks. They're going to play somebody. I'm going to ask you, what are the bullet points? What are the formulas on offense and defense to a playoff victory? And Reggie, I'm not going to let you do it. I'm not going to let you say fall behind by 33 points and then stage a miraculous comeback. It's not going to fly. I need sustainable, actionable items that the Vikings need to follow in order to be a playoff winner. So where do you start?
I think they need to come out with a fire underneath them because, it's the playoffs. I don't believe that they are going to get away with, getting behind like that and trying to come back. You can do it against the Colts. You can do it against a team that's not going anywhere. But against a team that's also earned the right to be in the postseason as well, playing for the chance to go to a Super Bowl, you can't do that. So I think they're going to have to, for one, on offense, come out. And, we talked about it the last time you were on the show, Sam, like, why does it take them getting punched in the teeth for them to, have some sustainable drives on offense? Like, it's like their backs have to be up against the wall. I think they need to come out and act like they're down by like 3 touchdowns with this offense to keep it going. Like, come out, have Kirkin hurry up. Like, we can't see, some of these offensive lulls that we see game in and game out from this Vikings team. It's just not going to work in the playoffs. They're going to have to come out and sustain some drives. And I think it really just comes down to them being more aggressive on offense, getting the ball into their playmakers' hands, staying ahead of the chains, or making it easier on third down, or may not even getting to third down. First and second down, taking a shot, and moving the sticks, pushing the ball down the field. Like, I think that's what it's going to take on offense to keep this thing going because they have the talent to be able to do that. They have all the, we're going to get into it, but Pro Bowl talent on the offense. That's what it's going to take. If Darisaw is healthy and that line is doing what they're supposed to do, like we've seen from them this season, making a way for Kirk in that pocket, not allowing him to get sacked 7 times like we saw against the Colts, and allowing him to actually cook back there, like it should be able to produce some sustainable drives for them. They also need to make sure they get the ball into Dalvin Cook's hands however they can, as we've seen, whether it's running the ball, whether it's, splitting him out wide. Sam, the screen game.
The screen game.
How about it? Getting the ball in Dalvin Cook's hands any kind of way. Maybe some tight end screens to TJ Hawkinson. Maybe doing something like that as well. They need to do something that is going to continue to sustain these drives. Get into the hurry up. Don't huddle it up. Let's just keep it moving. That's what I think I need to see on offense. And then on defense, they need to pin their ears back and get after the passer, whether they're going to blitz. I know they haven't blitzed a whole lot this season. Whether it's blitz, whether it's just Daniil and Za'Darius just pinning their ears back, moving them around in different gaps and trying to find a way to get a mismatch so that they can get to the quarterback. We need to see them get to the quarterback early and often. Kind of like what we saw against Green Bay. Like they abused that Packers offensive line and they abused Aaron Rodgers. And we really haven't seen a performance like that since then. Like they've done okay. There've been some flashes since then, but we haven't seen that type of performance since the start of the season. Mm-hmm. And so then beyond that, please just make sure if you're going to play coverage, can we make sure we don't see guys 5-10 yards off of these receivers, because that is not a formula that is sustainable for success. As we saw against the Lions, as we saw against the Patriots, they are going to chop them up. And I know they made some adjustments against the Colts, and that is something that you hope to see them sustain moving forward. And especially against the Giants, nobody is really scaring you, other than maybe Saquon Barkley, Darius Slayton. You don't want to get beat over the top, but other than those guys, like, there's nobody that really scares you. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to press some of these guys off the line and just play straight up man to man against some of these receivers. And so I think, getting into the playoffs, maybe they're playing a Scary Terry. Maybe they're playing, Jahan Dotson or DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Some of these teams that they may see in that first round, the Lions, Jamison Williams, DJ Shark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like, they're going to have to get up in their faces and try to make it a little bit more difficult for them to get into their routes, or else it's going to be scary all over again.
Mm-hmm. You know what I would not mind, Reggie? If the Vikings win handily on Saturday, that actually goes a long way towards setting up a Vikings-Giants rematch in the playoffs, because it takes the Giants down a peg and it moves the Vikings, further entrenched into that 2 seed. I think the Giants are a favorable matchup, because if, number one, their defense is not good. I know they had a good performance last Sunday to win a game. It's not a good defense. They're 26th in the league. And you alluded to this. Their offensive weapons are as punchless as you'll see in the league outside of Saquon. I think the Vikings may be playing the 2 most punchless offensive weapons teams in back-to-back weeks. And they obviously only had to face Jonathan Taylor for like 3 plays, so that helped too. But the Giants don't have a lot in the way of pass catching. They rely on Jones to use his legs and give it to Saquon, who uses his legs. But that defense is not that strong. That offense is not that scary. I would love to play the Giants again. But if it's not the Giants, there are some bad defenses in the mix for that 7 seed. There's the Giants 26th, the Seahawks 29th, the Lions 31st. Now, the Commanders are the oddball. They're actually 4th best in defense, but I wouldn't mind facing Heineke either, because I just don't trust him at all. So I think that all those matchups are favorable in some way for the Vikings. But if you're facing one of the cruddiest defenses in the league, that is incumbent upon Kirk Cousins to lead at least a 31-point offensive performance. I mean, we've seen this team hang points in bunches. If you could just sustain it a little better. There's one stat that I like to look at, scoring percentage. On how many drives are you actually producing points? And the Vikings, they are 18th in scoring percentage. That is not as great as it could be. This is an offense that has the capability to be much more consistent, and you touched on this. not going away for multiple quarters of games, that would help a lot. Even if you can just produce like a 5-minute field goal drive is helpful. Even if you don't score touchdowns, because it gives your defense a break, it takes time off the clock, it puts points on the board. The Vikings need a little more of that instead of the feast or famine when they score a touchdown, take 2 quarters off, score another touchdown, take a quarter off, score another touchdown. They end up with 28 points somehow, but it doesn't feel like they played that well. I just need a little more steadiness, a little less volatility, Reggie. I wonder if the formula changes when you play a better San Francisco team maybe in the second round, what needs to happen. I mean, then, like, I think in the first round, you just need to not shoot yourself in the foot. In the second round, then you really need to make some plays. Like, particularly on defense, you probably need to take the ball away. You probably need to get 3 or more sacks, make a splash play on special teams. Like, the standard for winning, I think, is considerably higher in the second round than the first. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not, especially against a team like the 49ers that has like a ridiculous defense. Like, if they fall behind, like San Francisco is one of those teams that they just pour it on you. You saw what they did to Tom Brady and the Bucs a couple weeks ago. You don't want that. You try to, get behind and all that. Like, I look at a team like the 49ers and I see a team that you're going to have to get into a slugfest with. Like, they hit you, you hit them back. They uppercut you, you hit them with a cross back. Like, it's one of those games like you can't afford to be getting hit and hit and hit. And then, you're still in the, corner. You're still, doing the rope-a-dope or whatever, and you're still trying to get out there and hang on, but like not if you're getting beat up, like you're down on the scorecards. And so I think that's going to be a situation where, like you say, yeah, they're going to have to find other ways to manufacture the ball. Like, it's been interesting, especially over the win streak that the Vikings had. They were always good for at least like a sack and at least 1 turnover. They haven't gotten that in a while. Like, it's been a while since we've seen them do that. Harrison Smith would always just some kind of way come down with an interception in the game, or Patrick Peterson or Cam Dantzler or someone like that, or Cam Bynum, I should say. But we haven't seen that. And that's been kind of like their recipe. Bend but don't break on defense. Come down with a timely interception. We saw it against the Commanders and Heineke. That kind of got them back into that game. We haven't seen that. That has to happen, especially, you go against a rookie quarterback like Brock Purdy. Look, man, you think about that Vic Fangio style defense that the Vikings run. What is that all about? It's all about like the exotic looks and making it very confusing for the opposing quarterback. And that's something that you want to see them do against a team like the 49ers. Make things difficult for young Purdy and let him go out there and make some mistakes, throw you the ball, or cough the ball up when Za'Darius is blaring down on him. So I think that's going to be what the recipe is. Like, they can't just, here, you get the ball, I get the ball. You get the ball, I get the ball. Because I don't think that that's going to allow them to keep up with the team like the 49ers, especially with how potent that defense is.
Yeah, you talk about exotic on defense. I feel like Mike Zimmer was the 5-star Punta Cana resort when it came to disguising some of these looks. And Ed Donatel is the Holiday Inn Express in Orlando. Like, I don't see nearly the same creativity defensively. I wish that one of the leaders like Smith or Kendricks or Hunter would say, hey, Ed, I know you're our guy. We love you. But this concept worked really well, and we know how to execute it. Maybe we could try it sometime and just see what happens there. Maybe Donatel throws a fit. I don't know. More to come on Superior Sports Talk. We talk Wild or Wolves. Who is going to carry the local sports fan beyond the football season? We talk about that in a moment. But first, this episode's brought to you by BetOnline.net, your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every pro and amateur league, NFL, bowl season, college football, college basketball, NBA. It's all there at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can get those as well at BetOnline. Vikings now favored by 4.5. Money pouring in on Minnesota. Check out that line and all the NFL lines for Week 16. Get it on your mobile device. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. Wild or Wolves? Who is going to keep morale high, Reggie? I'm already thinking ahead. I'm already thinking a month or two down the road when attentions shift. We can't talk about the Vikings every day anymore. Who's going to carry us into the next season? Got a couple hot teams right now. The Timberwolves are looking better even without Towns. The Wild are on a tear. We've talked about that on this show. You and Luke have gone back and forth about it too. So which team, if you could pick one, Reggie, who will fans stake all their hopes and dreams on once the Viking season is done? Who's going to generate that emotional investment that will gain people's interest?
I think if you look at last season, maybe you go Wolves, but I think it's the Wild, man. I really do, especially because, like, I don't know if people's expectations was for the Wild to do anything of, substance this year, and they are balling right now. Like, last night it seemed like, oh man, all right, here we go. Got the late night in Anaheim. Flower gives up that early goal like that in the second period, and you're like, well, all right, well, it was fun. It was fun, but then they come back and they just pour the goals in. I made the joke on Twitter, they just needed our newscast to end to start scoring some goals, because once we went off the air, that was when they turned it on. And this win streak that they have right now is impressive. And I just wonder, like, how long can they keep this going? Like, if they're going to get this type of production, not only from Flower, but, we did a little story on Gustafson the other day, 6-0 in his last 6 starts. And he is just out there balling. Like, it seems like he's really got his feet set here in Minnesota, coming over from Ottawa now. And you're like, okay, if they're going to get that type of consistency from both goaltenders, where, you can give Flower the night off, to rest his loins, to rest him, the old man, and you could put Gustafson in there and you can get similar, if not, better production from him. Wow, man, like, this team is scary. And then like we said, Sam, if you're going to get all these, goals from guys other than Kirill Kaprizov, that is encouraging last night, what we saw from them against the Ducks. And so I think that's going to be a team that's going to capture the team. I mean, it's the state of hockey. Come on. This is what happens here. And so I think that's going to be a team that captures everyone's hearts, because I look at that Wolves team, and especially like once the season is over for the Vikings, now you're talking about the return of Karl-Anthony Towns, and you're talking about them still trying to figure things out with him and Rudy out there at the same time. And now, you've got the emergence of Naz Reid, so you got to get him some minutes in there as well. And I still think it's going to be them trying to figure what the heck they're doing out for the next few months. And that's going to be having fans like ready to pull their hair out. And I don't know if that's going to be something that's going to be fun for the fans' hearts. You talk about the Vikings inevitably breaking the fans' hearts. Well, I don't think they're going to want more heartbreak from the Wolves. So I think the Wild is a good story to get behind, and I think one that will continue to take them moving forward.
Conveniently, the Wild and Wolves have played the same number of games, 32. That means they've got 50 games remaining each. The Wild are 8 games above 500, and they really have had the stretch now that they had last year at the beginning of the season. And I think this is turning into basically the same team, and maybe even a little more consistent in goal when you look at what Gustafson and Fleury are giving you. And I think that there's a greater opportunity in the NHL. You don't need to be a top 2 seed to win the Stanley Cup. You can make the tournament, get hot, and win the Stanley Cup from anywhere. If you are a play-in team in the NBA, your odds of going anywhere in the postseason are so slim, And that's where the Wolves are living right now. Unless they prove me wrong, unless they move into a different stratosphere, it's going to be hard to stake any real interest in that team, beyond whether they can get out of the play-in round. I think the Wild right now are screaming to the NHL, we are contenders this year, just like we were the year before, and we have been several years prior. Now, the Wild, it's about playoff success. Like they've been in the playoffs a lot, but they usually lose. What's going to be different about this team? I think I'm willing to invest in them and find out. Like I want to see what they're made of, because when you have a star like Kirill Kaprizov, anything can happen in the postseason, especially when Fleury is your goaltender, even though last year didn't go too well. But we won't talk about that. We've got What Does It Mean coming up with Reggie Wilson. Before we get to that, make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's Take of the Day. That's Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And one more thing, folks, Built Bar. Those two little words that, to me, just scream the holiday season. Why? Because you can load up your stocking with white chocolate peppermint granola, candy cane brownie puffs. You can put it in your own stocking, and you can say, well, I guess Santa just left it for me, because they're so good. You want to hoard them all for yourself. I wouldn't blame you a bit. They're like a delicious cloud, just eating them every day, getting that little boost of goodness and energy. 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, 130 calories. You can't beat that. Built Bar has a magic formula. I don't know how they do it, but they are life-changingly good. Magical Built Bars. 15% off your order right now by using the code LOCKEDON15 at Built.com. That's promo code LOCKEDON15 at Built.com.
It's time to tell us, what does it mean?
All right, Reggie, I've got 3 prompts. I want a minute on each. What does it mean? I'm not sure if you and Luke had time to react to this yesterday. You can, if you did, you can stop me. We can move on. But this broke yesterday morning. The Twins, I'll start here. Carlos Correa, former Twin, Carlos Correa. He reneges on the Giants, or they reneged on him. Somebody reneged on somebody because the physical didn't go well. And Carlos Correa moves his commitment from the Giants to the Mets. And now the Mets are stacked. And apparently the reports are the Twins actually jumped back in the race, but they did not change their offer. They kept it at 10 years, $285, and Correa said, nope, I'm taking the extra 30, and I'm going to go to the Mets, and we're going to win a World Series. What does it mean, Reggie? The Twins reportedly did not up their offer to Correa when they had another chance.
I think they obviously drew their line in the sand. Yesterday, Luke and I talked about Correa going to the Mets, but we didn't know the particulars. Like, did the Twins jump back in? Did they not? Were they scared off by his physical? It sounds like they might have been a little weary of that physical as well. And so, look, big miss for the Giants, missing on Aaron Judge and now Correa as well. And so it's reported, I saw reports yesterday, I think from The Athletic, that Correa tackled Scott Boras when the Mets offer came through and pushed him onto the bed. I don't know where they were, that was a situation, but we'll move forward from that.
Who's reporting this news? Who has that scoop?
Look, it was on The Athletic. It was on The Athletic, okay?
It must be true.
He pushed Boris onto the bed. So I'm like, okay, what bed? Where are you guys at? Are you vacationing together? What's going on? You living together? I don't know. But anyway, he's paying him a lot of money. He might as well get a guest house at his estate,
Little mother-in-law suite. Yeah.
Yeah. A little, hey, Scotty, you want to go over to your house? Okay. All right. I'll see you over there, buddy. But I think what's interesting is the Twins clearly had their line drawn in the sand. They were like, look, this is what we're going to do. And honestly, look, it was obviously just the years for Correa, because the Twins deal was giving him more average annual value than any of the offers that he had received. The one from the Giants, I think it was something like 25, 26 mil a year. And with the Mets now, I think it's 26 mil a year, but they give him that stability. Instead of, with the Twins, he'd be done with that contract when he was 38 years old. Now, well, it was 41 with the Giants, but now it's going to be 40 with the Mets. And so they give him that type of stability to allow him to play until he's good and darn ready to end it, or convert a little bit of that into a second Bobby Bonilla type of a deal if he doesn't play all the way up until he's 40. So I think he was looking for that stability. He got it with the Mets. The Twins, even though they were offering 28.5 a year, I guess it just wasn't enough. Like, he wanted to get those extra years in so that he had that stability later. Because, look, I get it. These baseball players, they understand. Well, these athletes in general, they try to get as much money as they can while they can, because when they're 50 years old, there is nothing that is going to net them the type of return that they are netting while they're in the prime of their playing days. So I get it. That's what Carlos Correa was going to do. But doesn't it seem like it's a little bit more of just another knife being drawn in the back of Twins fans? You're just like, there's hope. He failed the physical. Maybe he can come back. And then the Twins are just like, no, bro. Like, take the offer that we had, or there is no offer. And he's like, all right, well, I'll just go to the Mets. Twins fans like, what? We had a chance again, and we still didn't do it. I think that's probably what's the most hurtful for Twins fans.
Yeah, I just don't get the mandate. Like, if you're willing to go that high for that annual value, why would you not give the extra year, right? It's not going to be your problem to deal with. Let the next front office deal with that. Besides, at that point in time, $28 million is not going to be that big a deal. Someone needs to teach Correa about investment, though. Over the first 10 years of the Twins deal, he's making $22.5 million more than the first 10 years of the Mets deal. Think about how much he could have in investments if he just takes the difference, puts it into stocks over 10 years. That's going to appreciate. I think he actually left money on the table, to be honest. I mean, think about where Bitcoin's going to be in 10 years. He could just put it in Bitcoin. I digress. What does it mean, Reggie? The Wolves lose the second of their back-to-back with the Mavs. 104, was it 104.99? They lose by 5 and drop their record to 500. What does it mean now that the Wolves go into a killer stretch of road games with a 500 record? Are they going to come out of this still at 500, or is this going to be a dip for the Wolves?
It's going to be tough for them. I'm not going to, sit here and lie. I think last night was a good indicator that, look, they can play well without their stars. Like, they can. Without their all-stars, they can. But there is not a situation where they are a better team without Rudy, without Cat. I think if they had a little bit more shot making from a guy like Cat last night, they probably win that game. It was tough watching that game last night, seeing Luka kind of draw the defense in only for him to kick out to that corner three Reggie Bullock splash, making those corner threes. And I understand the Mavs weren't necessarily doing that the night before, but look, these are NBA teams. They're going to make shots. And we've seen some defensive lulls from the Wolves. We've seen some problematic third quarters from the Wolves. That just continues to be a case, a situation with this team. And now you're looking at, like, look, if Ant Edwards doesn't necessarily go off, he didn't last night. He had a modest game last night. If he doesn't go off, now you're looking at the other role players doing something. Austin Rivers had a pretty good game. But, like, when you're relying on some of the other guys that are not, your superstars out there to carry you, I think that's probably going to get you into some trouble if you are wanting to play some meaningful basketball, and that's what they're about to do over this next stretch. And it's going to be tough, man, if they don't get at least, 30 or so from Ant every night. Like, it's going to be tough for them to really keep up with some of these teams. But if he's going to be that alpha, if he's going to be that dude, then that's kind of what you expect from him. and you just expect them to continue to hustle. Rudy came back last night and had a pretty good game. It really kind of neutralized Naz Reid a little bit, coming off his 27-point performance. And so I think you want to find a way to get all the guys involved a little bit more. But look, Rudy had a good game and had a solid game, but I think he needs to go into superstar status where he's having these dominant games of 30 plus points a night for them to actually compete, especially while Cat is out.
All right, I got one more for you, Reggie. What does it mean that the Vikings got 5 Pro Bowlers, Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Za'Darius Smith, and long snapper Andrew DePaula? My question is, did anyone get snubbed? What does it mean that those 5 got in and several did not get? And I know there's some alternates in there. I want to acknowledge that. But in terms of actually on the team, who got snubbed, Reggie?
It's interesting because when I look at the roster, I'm not really sure how you can always argue, I guess, for more, but the guys that got in, maybe you would make an argument that Dalvin Cook belonged there, but then you look at the guys like Miles Sanders, Saquon Barkley, and you're like, dang, do any of them kind of get in or kind of get behind Cook in that pecking order right there? I mean, those two guys have had great seasons as well. And then you look at the Darisaw move, you look at the tackles that got in, you're like, maybe over Lane Johnson, Darisaw, maybe. I think it's kind of crazy that Patrick Peterson, not even as an alternate, dang. Really? He had kind of a resurgent season this year, and you really didn't, not even as an alternate. And then, you look at Harrison Smith. I think there was the guy from the 49ers. I cannot pronounce his name, but he got in over Harrison Smith, and you're like, well, maybe Harry could have got in there, but I think it's a product of people thinking well, that Vikings defense is just not very good. Sorry, they're not that great. So you don't really think of some of their guys as Pro Bowlers. It was good to see Za'Darius Smith bounce back from basically missing all of last season to get in. I think he was very deserving of the honor. But yeah, when I look at snubs, I look at some of the vet guys that have been balling this year, like Harrison Smith and Patrick Peterson. And then, look, I know he got hurt quite a bit, but look, TJ Watt got in to the Pro Bowl, and he missed 5-6 games this year, and you don't penalize a guy like that. But then you look at Christian Darisaw. It was Darisaw Island up until he got that concussion. He's given up 3 sacks this year, and some you may say were maybe not his fault because of what he's been dealing with the concussion. I think Darisaw should have been a Pro Bowler outright this year. I think if you look at snubs, he for me seems like the biggest one, followed by maybe Dalvin Cook.
Darisaw for sure, biggest snub. I thought you could make a case at times he's been the best left tackle in football. Patrick Peterson was the other one. You touched on that. Amazing resurgent year, top 10 PFF corner. He's been great, but like you said, not on a very good defense. He's Reggie Wilson, KARE11. Check him out on TV. He's on Twitter at Reggie Wilson TV. I'm Sam Ekstrom at Sam Ekstrom, filling in for the great Luke Inman on Superior Sports Talk. Get it wherever you find your podcasts or on YouTube. Locked On Sports Minnesota. For Reggie, I'm Sam saying so long on Superior Sports Talk today.
Be blessed. Spread love today.